Welcome back to ABC English Story. I'm your friend and storyteller, Emma. Today, I want to talk about a feeling that many of us know well. It's that feeling of running a race you can't seem to win. You try harder, you run faster, but the finish line never gets any closer. For many people learning a new language, especially English, this feeling is a constant companion. It's the pressure to be perfect, the fear of making a mistake, the exhaustion of trying to remember every single rule and word. But what if the secret to winning the race wasn't to run faster, but to slow down? What if the key to speaking fluently wasn't in the struggle, but in the silence? Today's story is about a man named Leo, a man who felt the heavy weight of these feelings. His journey didn't happen in a classroom or a library. It started in a quiet, forgotten place, with a simple act that taught him the most important lesson in his English learning journey. This is the story of Leo and the secret of the old bookstore. Leo moved to Chicago in his late 30s. He came with a big dream and a heavy suitcase filled with hope. He was a talented architect, full of ideas for beautiful buildings that could touch the sky. But there was a wall between his brilliant mind and the world around him. That wall was English. In his home country, Leo was confident and articulate. His words could build images in people's minds just as clearly as his hands could draw blueprints. But in Chicago, his words felt clumsy and broken. Every conversation felt like a test he was failing. At work, he would sit in meetings, his ideas locked inside his head. He understood most of what was said, but when he tried to speak, the fear would freeze his tongue. The words would come out in the wrong order, or he would forget a simple vocabulary word. He could see the polite confusion in his colleagues' eyes. It felt like a small failure every single time. The city itself was a constant reminder of his struggle. The fast-talking news anchors on TV, the friendly cashier at the grocery store, the energetic music on the radio, it was all a language that he felt he could only listen to from the outside, like a child with his face pressed against the glass of a candy store. He studied for hours every night. Flashcards covered his small apartment. Grammar books were piled high on his desk. He listened to podcasts, watched movies with subtitles, and repeated phrases until his throat was sore. But instead of feeling more confident, he felt more stressed. His mind was a storm of grammar rules, new words, and anxieties. He wasn't learning a language, he was fighting a battle. And he was losing. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, after a particularly difficult meeting, Leo felt a deep sense of despair. He had tried to explain a new design concept, a project he was incredibly passionate about, but his words had failed him. He had stumbled, paused for too long, and eventually, his manager had gently interrupted, saying, "Let's circle back to this later, Leo." Leo left the office feeling invisible. He walked aimlessly in the rain, the city lights blurring through his tears. Maybe this was a mistake, he thought. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe it's time to give up and go home. He found himself on a quiet side street he'd never seen before. Tucked between a modern coffee shop and a new apartment building was a small, old-fashioned store. The sign above the door, painted in faded gold letters, read, "Arthur's Antiquarian Books." It looked like a place from another time. Through the window, he could see tall shelves packed with old books, reaching up to the ceiling. A warm, yellow light glowed from inside. Leo didn't usually like old, dusty places. But on that day, the quiet and the warmth called to him. He needed a place to escape the noise, both outside and inside his head. He pushed open the heavy wooden door, and a small bell chimed. The air inside smelled of old paper, leather, and something sweet, like pipe tobacco. It was silent, except for the soft sound of the rain against the window. Behind a large wooden counter stood an old man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He had silver hair and wore a simple cardigan sweater. He was carefully polishing the cover of a thick, leather-bound book with a soft cloth. He moved slowly, with a peaceful focus that seemed to absorb the silence of the room. He looked up as Leo entered. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice as soft as the rain. "A good day to get lost in a story." Leo just nodded, not trusting his voice. He walked slowly through the narrow aisles. The books were like silent friends, waiting patiently. He ran his fingers over their spines. He wasn't looking for anything to study. He was just being. For the first time that day, the storm in his mind began to calm. The simple act of being in this quiet place, surrounded by stories, was like a deep, calming breath. He stopped in front of a small section labeled American Classics. He pulled out a thin, simple-looking book. It was The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. He had tried to read it before but had found the vocabulary difficult. The old man, Arthur, had quietly walked over. He wasn't looking at Leo with pressure, just with a gentle curiosity.
Ah,
A wonderful choice, Arthur said softly. Hemingway. He doesn't use many big words. He just uses the right ones. Leo felt a familiar wave of anxiety. He was about to apologize and put the book back. But Arthur spoke again. Can I offer you a piece of advice? He asked. Leo nodded. Don't just try to read the words, Arthur said, pointing a gentle finger at the page. Try to hear them. Read it aloud, even if it's just a whisper. Don't rush. Feel the rhythm of the sentences. Feel how one word connects to the next. Breathe with the story. The goal isn't to finish the book. The goal is to experience one sentence, completely. This was strange advice. It wasn't about memorizing or understanding grammar. It was about feeling. Leo bought the book. When he got home, he made a cup of tea. He sat in his favorite chair, and instead of opening his grammar books, he opened The Old Man and the Sea. He remembered Arthur's words. He took a deep breath. He began to read aloud, very slowly. He was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without taking a fish. He focused on the sound of his own voice. He paid attention to the rise and fall of his speech, the simple, strong rhythm of the sentence. He wasn't thinking about the meaning of a skiff or a Gulf Stream. He was just experiencing the sound, the shape of the language. He read the same sentence again, and then again. The knot of anxiety in his stomach began to loosen. He continued this way every evening. He would read just one page. He read it slowly, aloud, paying attention to his breath and the sound of the words. He started to notice things he had never noticed before, the simple beauty of the language, the quiet strength in the story. It was no longer a task. It became a peaceful ritual, a quiet conversation between him and the book. His mind, once a storm, was becoming a calm sea. This practice began to change everything. At work, when he felt nervous before speaking, he would take a quiet, deep breath, just as he did before reading. It calmed the racing thoughts. When he listened to his colleagues, he didn't just panic about what to say next. He listened with the same focus he gave to Hemingway's sentences. He listened to understand, to be present in the conversation. He started visiting Arthur's bookstore every week. They would talk, not for long, but their conversations were different. Leo spoke slowly, without rushing. He wasn't afraid of pausing to find the right word. Arthur would listen patiently, with a calm smile, which gave Leo a new kind of confidence. He realized that communication wasn't a performance. It was a connection. He didn't have to be perfect. He just had to be present. About 3 months later, Leo was in a major design presentation. The whole team was there, including senior partners. In the past, this would have been his worst nightmare. But that day, something was different. As he walked to the front of the room, he took a slow, deep breath. He looked at his colleagues, not as judges, but as people he wanted to share his ideas with. He began to speak. He spoke slowly, calmly, and clearly. He told the story of his design, the way the light would enter the building in the morning, the way the space would make people feel. He didn't use big, complicated words. He used simple, honest ones. He was no longer just translating ideas from his native language. He was thinking and feeling in English. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then, the senior partner smiled. "Leo," he said, "that was brilliant. I finally understand your vision. It's beautiful. In that moment, Leo felt a profound sense of release. The wall had crumbled. He wasn't just an architect who spoke broken English anymore. He was an architect. And he could speak English. What Leo discovered in that quiet bookstore wasn't a secret grammar trick or a vocabulary list. He discovered mindfulness. He learned to stop fighting with the language and start building a relationship with it. By slowing down, he allowed his brain to process information without the stress that blocks learning. By focusing on his breath, he calmed his anxiety and improved his concentration. By reading aloud mindfully, he improved his pronunciation and rhythm naturally. By speaking with awareness, he stopped fearing mistakes and started building real confidence. He learned that being present is more powerful than being perfect. Maybe you see a little of yourself in Leo's story. Maybe you also feel that pressure, that fear of not being good enough. If you do, please know that you are not alone. And maybe, the answer for you is also not to try harder, but to try softer. Tonight, when you practice your English, try Leo's method. Pick a short paragraph from a book or an article you enjoy. Turn off all distractions. Take one deep breath. And then, read the paragraph aloud, slowly. Don't worry about understanding every word. Just focus on the sound, the rhythm, the feeling of the language in your mouth. Be present with the words. Give yourself this gift of quiet focus. You might be surprised. You might find, like Leo, that when you stop trying to conquer English, you finally allow it to become a part of you. You might just find your true voice, waiting patiently in the silence. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. If this story inspired you, give us a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to ABC English Story for more meaningful content like this. Until next time, be kind to yourself on your English journey.